Sherman's March to the Sea, Total War Strategy Explained. In the final years of the American Civil War, one campaign stood out not just for its military effectiveness, but for the psychological impact it had on the Confederacy and the very nature of modern warfare. General William Tecumseh Sherman's March to the Sea, conducted from November 15 to December 21, 1864, is a powerful example of the total war strategy, a method of warfare that targets not just enemy armies, but the economic and civilian infrastructure that supports them. The context: a nation at war. By late 1864, the Civil War had dragged on for over 3 years. Though the Union had achieved significant victories, the Confederacy remained defiant. Abraham Lincoln's re-election was not guaranteed, and public support for the war in the North was wavering. Sherman's campaign was intended to break the South's will to fight, crush its ability to support the war, and boost Northern morale. His strategy was not simply to defeat Confederate troops, but to bring the horrors of war home to Southern civilians, thereby hastening the end of the conflict. The march begins from Atlanta to Savannah. Following the capture and burning of Atlanta in September 1864, Sherman split his forces. With roughly 60,000 troops, he began a 285-mile march from Atlanta to the port city of Savannah, Georgia. His army moved in a wide path, approximately 60 miles across, cutting through the heart of Georgia. Sherman's men lived off the land, destroying railroads, factories, cotton gins, barns, and other resources that could be used by Confederate forces. This wasn't just looting, it was a deliberate strategy to cripple the South's economy and infrastructure. Total war, a new kind of conflict. Sherman's approach marked a turning point in military thinking. Total war meant waging war not only against enemy combatants, but against the entire system that sustained them. Civilian property, food supplies, and transportation networks became legitimate targets. The goal was psychological as well as physical: to demoralize Southern civilians and convince them that resistance was futile. Though Sherman did not deliberately target civilians for violence, his campaign caused immense hardship. Entire towns were left in ruins, crops were burned, and families were left homeless. The strategy was controversial at the time, and still sparks debate today, but it was undeniably effective. Savannah captured, mission accomplished. On December 21, 1864, Sherman captured Savannah and famously presented it to President Lincoln as a Christmas gift. The success of the campaign was a major boost for the Union and helped ensure Lincoln's re-election. Sherman then turned his attention northward, beginning a similarly destructive march through the Carolinas, which further devastated the Southern war effort. Legacy and impact. Sherman's March to the Sea demonstrated the effectiveness of total war and changed the nature of military strategy forever. While it hastened the end of the Civil War, it also left a legacy of bitterness in the South that would last for generations. Critics have labeled the campaign as brutal, even barbaric. But Sherman defended his tactics, arguing that the destruction shortened the war and ultimately saved lives by forcing a quicker Confederate surrender. His strategy is now studied in military academies around the world as a case study in operational warfare, psychological tactics, and logistical innovation. Conclusion: a hard lesson in war. Sherman's March to the Sea was more than a military campaign. It was a signal that the rules of war were changing. It brought the full force of conflict into the heartland of the Confederacy and demonstrated that wars are not only won on the battlefield, but also by breaking the will of a nation to continue fighting. Whether seen as a necessary evil or a ruthless campaign, Sherman's march helped bring the Civil War to a close and reshape the American South forever.